Sometimes the biggest, most important stories don't arrive with a giant explosion. They just unfold quietly, scattered across the news on a single day, looking like they have nothing to do with each other. Today, we're going to connect those dots and piece together a story that is truly changing our world. So let me ask you this. What if the most profound changes, especially in our relationship with animals, don't come from some single massive revolution, but from a handful of news alerts that you might just scroll right past? To really see what I'm talking about, we're going to zoom in on just one day. Let's pick December 30th, 2025. By looking at 5 different headlines that all broke on this single day, we can actually uncover this hidden story about a huge, fundamental shift happening all around us. So, our story really starts with the most basic question of all. What is an animal to us? For like centuries, the answer seemed pretty simple. But the headlines from this one day show that answer is changing, and it's changing fast. For a long, long time, this was pretty much the standard view, right? Animals were seen as resources, tools for us to use for scientific progress or for entertainment. Think of beagles in labs or elephants performing in shows for tourists. But on our day, December 30th, you can see a totally new view taking shape. In science, lab animals are slowly being replaced by amazing tech like an organ on a chip. And in tourism, those animal spectacles, they're giving way to a new focus on health and, well, harmony. And this isn't just some small adjustment, it's a complete 180 in our perspective. Okay, so our first headline comes straight from the US Food and Drug Administration. On this day, they announced they're speeding up their non-animal models program. This is huge. It means they're officially pushing to replace animal testing with things like organ chips and AI simulations. People are calling it the dawn of a post-animal testing era, which is a massive win for animal welfare and for getting faster, more accurate science. Now, let's jump halfway across the world to Nepal, where another headline tells a very similar story. The super famous Saraha Elephant Festival made a big move. They canceled all of their controversial competitive events. Instead, the whole festival was redesigned around elephant health and well-being. And what's so fascinating is that this shift in helped them. It actually boosted tourism and set a brand new global standard. So, if animals are no longer just tools, what are they becoming? Well, the headlines seem to point to one clear answer. They're becoming family. Let's see how the shift is actually playing out in our everyday lives. And that brings us to California, where a new law was making major headlines. At its heart is this really powerful idea that pets aren't just property you own, but they're essential family members who deserve a stable home just like anyone else. The law is officially called the Pet Rent Limitation Act, and its goal is pretty simple. It stops landlords from charging crazy high pet rent. This is so important because those fees are one of the main reasons that families are forced to give up their beloved pets to shelters. So this law basically redefines housing rights to include the entire family. All right, now let's switch gears and talk about money. On December 30th, the business world was buzzing about one number in particular, $20 million. A huge chunk of change. But what was it for? Well, that $20 million was raised by a company called Tonix Pharmaceuticals for a really fascinating reason. They're developing new drugs not just for people, but for humans and their pets. We're talking about advanced stuff here, treatments for things like pain and migraines that can be used across species. This kind of investment is a massive vote of confidence in this big idea called One Health. And it's really simple but profound. It's the idea that the health of people, animals, and our whole environment are all connected. The lines are totally blurring. The future of medicine is about treating the entire family unit, paws, claws, and all. But, this growing integration, it has a flip side. When our worlds get more and more tangled up, we don't just share our homes and our medicine. We also start to share our dangers. Which brings us to our fourth headline from December 30th, and this one is a pretty stark warning coming from the U.S. Department of Agriculture about something called the New World Screwworm. This thing is a nasty, flesh-eating parasite that was actually eliminated in the U.S. decades ago. But now, it's spreading north again. And because we and our pets travel more than ever before, this pest poses a direct threat to our animal family members. It's just a harsh reminder that when we share our lives, we also share our risks. Now, the USDA didn't just drop this scary warning and walk away. The alert came with clear, practical advice. Check your pets for wounds, make sure their parasite preventatives are up to date, and talk to a vet before and after you travel across borders. This isn't some far-off threat. It's a real-world problem for our very integrated lives. Okay, so let's step back for a second. We've looked at 5 completely different headlines from one single day. When we put them all together, what's the story they're actually telling us? Well, when you lay it all out like this, the pattern becomes crystal clear, doesn't it? Across science, culture, law, and medicine, we're seeing the exact same shift. Animals are being redefined from resources into partners and family members. And at the same time, our shared ecology is reminding us that as our worlds merge, so do our risks. Ultimately, the story of December 30th, 2025 is about walls just completely dissolving. The old, thick lines we used to draw between human problems and animal problems, well, they're disappearing. Our health, our homes, and our futures are becoming inseparable from theirs. And that leaves us with one last big question. As this integration just keeps accelerating, what's the next frontier? What is the next right we need to be ready to fight for, and the next responsibility we have to be willing to accept?